Yeah, thanks very much, Neve. So my name's Rich. I'm one of the sort of founders and directors of a company called CareScribe. So my background is in healthcare. So as you sort of mentioned, I'm a doctor by trade, I suppose. So I've been that's my vocation, and I worked in the NHS for a long time. I'm dyslexic and I have ADHD. So back in over a decade ago, I built a bit of assistive tech to help myself in the sort of some of my challenges, and got myself very interested in assistive technology. And over the sort of subsequent decade, I've kind of been building assistive technology through CareScribe. We build software designed to help people both in education and in the workplace to sort of better access the world with more independence. We support a wide range of people with different disabilities and neurodivergent profiles to access the world more independently. And that's what we do. We're based in Bristol in the UK.
Great, that's amazing. Jackie, I might just ask you for another quick intro if anybody's just joining now.
Yep, absolutely. Hello, nice to meet you, Rich, fellow dyslexic. They're the best types. My name's Jackie Wallace. I'm the CEO of Genius Within. Genius Within is a community interest company who specialise in supporting adults who are both out of work, either through unemployment or being in the prison system. And also we support adults who are in work through supportive programmes that are purchased via access to work grants and also directly by businesses who contract with us.
Great. I don't know if Jackie, your screen is frozen for me. Is it frozen for you, Rich? Or is that just...
No, I can. You're moving. You're moving for me.
Hi, can you hear me all right?
Yeah, hear you. Perfect. That's good. And so, like you said there, Jackie, fellow dyslexic there with Richard, and I thought that the two of you not only share that, and I thought it would be great to have both of you on the call, because not only are you, maybe have similar experiences, but what both of you are doing is creating companies and solutions to help individuals like yourself lead a more productive, fulfilling, life at work, I suppose. Jackie with Genius Pro and Rich with CareScribe, and you have two different products, captioned and also talk type. And like, I love this. I always think some people are just naturally talented and gifted, and that's probably not true as well. But you say, well, I'm dyslexic and, I just built some assistive technology to help me. And the first thing I think is, wow, how can you just, I'll just try my hand at building some assistive technology. Like, that's incredible,
I'm sure. Yeah, it's probably more. I probably said it more flippantly than I should. It's certainly. I can't code anything. So I've throughout my life really just relied on people more talented than myself to do the heavy lifting. But certainly been some of the part of the driving force behind building some of this stuff.
And I think that's maybe evident, like how much of your own experience, and this is probably a silly question, but how much of your own experience is that driving force? Do you think if you weren't dyslexic, this would be your path of creating these and working on this?
That's a really good question. I think being dyslexic is integral to kind of who I am. It's the way my brain is built and works. So almost certainly not. And I think I have a part of being dyslexic, I'm sure, and having ADHD is I've got a very entrepreneurial and slightly impatient brain, and it means when I see things that don't work for me, I look to find a solution. I think that's been built up from right from the very start. When a dyslexic person's at school, the education system historically it's not really built for the sort of kinesthetic learner, that maybe the dyslexic mind. It's very literary based, and so for me that didn't really work very well, and I'd have to adapt and find ways of adapting to take in information and to try and keep up with my peers, and I'd done that my whole life. So I think through my dyslexia, whether it's specifically due to the way my brain is made up or the sort of way I've been forced to adapt, is when I see barriers, I look to kind of find ways around that. And that assistive technology and creating assistive technology is kind of is part of that. So, you know, I was in uni, I thought, oh, you know, at medical school, I thought goodbye to all the sort of the English exams and all of that sort of stuff. I'm in a science course, I'm going to excel here. And then I came up against all this vocabulary in medicine, all these complex words and a difficult vocabulary. And I thought, oh, what am I going to do? So I thought, well, maybe I can build something to help me with that. And that was the very first piece of technology that I built, was a bit of software to help me with spell checking and dictation of complex words. And again, I can't code. So what did I do? I put a little note on a corkboard outside the computer science department at university and said, anybody interested in helping me build this thing? And someone came along to help, and we sort of did it together. And yeah, so I think without dyslexia, you know, I wouldn't have the brain that I have, and I wouldn't have the way of thinking about problems, and probably that kind of entrepreneurial and, you know, impatient mind probably wouldn't be there. But yeah, because it is, that's why I built these things.
Yeah, I think that's amazing. But I think maybe your experiences both differ in that I'm sensing you were aware of having dyslexia from a younger age.
No, I found out just before GCSE. So I was failing in a lot of school actually, and yeah, really struggling. And then just before my sort of GCSEs, it was kind of, you know, it's kind of the stark contrast of sciences and maths, and you're doing all right, and then anything you have to read and write a lot, you're really struggling and failing. And luckily, you know, at that point, someone said, oh, maybe he's dyslexic, got a diagnosis, and it really shouldn't be this way, that you need a label in order to get the support. But at that time it was the case, and I got a very small amount of extra support and some adaptations, and all of a sudden, you know, I go on to pass my GCSEs, get onto A levels, do well at A levels, and then get into medical school. So yeah, I mean, that's really a message, isn't it, for the workplace? You know, you shouldn't have to wait until somebody's failing before you take notice, because, you know, if they're part of your organization, they're not succeeding for themselves and they're not succeeding for your organization. So being proactive and understanding that early on is really important.
And you mentioned a similar thing, Jackie, in your experience, that you were doing bad at uni, you were almost, you know, on the door out, and something changed, and you said, I wonder what that was, when you found a better process for you. What was that process that was able to help you? Like you said, you were one of the only two to get a first.
Yeah, so I think we're all hardwired to think that everybody experiences the world the way that we do. And when you're dyslexic or ADHD or a combination of both, or any other neurotype, you don't realize that no one else is experiencing what you're experiencing. So you're just going, well, this is just how it is. You know, I just have to do these things. I have to find workarounds. And I think you're right, Rich. We have an entrepreneurial, impatient mind that tries to find, it hits a blocker and it tries to find another route round all the time. You're inventing ways and strategies that work for you until you can't anymore, you know, and that's when people start to fail, in inverted commas. And I think it is, you know, I was failing in my degree course, and a lovely lecturer to one side and said, you know, you come to every seminar, I see you at the front row of every lecture, I see you writing things down, and yet when you give me your essay, it's not good. You know, what's going on? My thoughts were chaotic, they were disorganized, my thinking wasn't well put together, my writing was illegible in a lot of cases. And he said, I'd really like you to have a dyslexia test. And I went for it and had that, and I got a very medical model diagnosis that said I had learning disability, and that and I took it home, and my mum and dad said they didn't recognize me in that, and they were ashamed. I think they were ashamed, and I think we never talked about it again. And so I didn't really talk about it either. I had some adjustments at university, but when I went to the workplace, I never spoke about it for the next 25 years. When I was in advertising, you just got through it. And I think I carried with me that stigma of the first people that I told, going, well, this isn't, you know, I don't believe this, and it's not true, it's not you, because it used very medical terminology, and it felt that it wasn't representative of who I was. You know, what we say now, exactly the same as what you've just said, Rich, is that you don't wait for a person to fail. We know how long it's taking to get diagnosis, and we don't have enough diagnosticians even to get through the level of people that we think should have a diagnosis. If we look at the levels that we expect to have in the population, we don't have enough diagnosticians to diagnose everybody. So why do we keep obsessing about the diagnostic? What is that? What is that? And it is, I think it comes from this stigma, because people need something that says, these are the reasons I need this help, and look, it's written down, and someone's written it down for me. Because actually, if we could just move beyond that, we always say, stop focusing on diagnosis and start organising support. If we could just organise the support, because actually we spend all our money on the diagnosis, which you can't get one very easily in the NHS, and if you go privately, it's very, very expensive, and many people don't have the resources to do that. Actually, you get very, very low cost adjustments being put in place that are incredibly effective. And we've done a whole study on the most effective reasonable adjustments in the workplace. And the ones that come out the top are the ones that are free. Those are the ones that statistically, scientifically, from a research perspective, come out as the most effective. So if we could stop focusing on trying to work out, waiting for someone to not do their best, look like they're going under in terms of their work, not coping. They might be going into performance review. They might be falling out with their colleagues because they're under stress. Let's stop waiting for that. Let's just put in some things that anyone can take at any point that they need, that they feel a little bit of extra support is needed. And if we can do that universally, it takes away stigma. It takes away the need for disclosure. It takes away the need for us to spend money giving people labels that they may or may not want. And it just moves people to a position where you can kind of unlock their ability in a very free, open and transformative way. And, my inbox is full of people. We coach thousands of people every year, and my inbox is full of people saying it's been transformative. A bit of help and support has been transformative. It was for me. And I think the real passion that we have and the real kind of drive that we have that gets us up every day is we want it to be like that for everyone. And that's the reason we created the Genius Finder tool, was because we wanted to give something that was affordable for people. We didn't want people to have to rely on thousands of pounds worth of assessments to get access. Why can't we just give everybody, you can buy a personal subscription for £42. You can buy a company one with the admin view at £55 a license, instead of thousands of pounds for a diagnostic. And it's not about, we're a CIC, so we're not feeding rich shareholders. We're here to try and make a difference for the people. We want to put the ability to make the change in the hands of the people that will benefit most of it. And that's the kind of driving force behind what we're doing, and why personally I feel so passionately about moving people away from diagnosis. Although I understand it's a cathartic experience and useful for many people, I'd love us to be able to get beyond that.
Yeah, I think all your points, they're just so valid and just make so much sense. It's like having those supports there. And Rich, you have with CareScribe, you have two products. So you have captioned and talk type. And I wonder, so you can explain a little bit more about what each of those do, but I wonder now, are you seeing that companies, are they waiting until there is people with diagnoses and saying, okay, we already have people that have an issue now, and now we have to try solve that? Or to Jackie's point, a much better model of that is, well, why not just have these things available in your organization, and anyone who needs them, of course, there's budgeting, issues on that, but we make it available. And it doesn't have to be a big disclosure thing. It doesn't have to be stigma, but somebody can just, send a message and I'd like to use captioned, I'd like to use talk type. What's the mindset in the organizations that you're working with?
Yeah, it varies. I think there still is kind of, I think there is that unfortunate sort of thing of kind of there still exists of neuro inclusion almost being kind of meeting a regulatory need. Oh, like I'll tick that box because that's done. Whereas the reality is what you're doing is unlocking the full potential of your workforce. Why on earth wouldn't you want to do that? Like why would you need a regulation or something to tell you that you want to get the most out of somebody? You're talking improved productivity, better staff retention, improved recruiting. There's 100 different business KPI based benefits to your business that can affect the bottom line to neuro inclusion. Unfortunately, that as you say, budgets are, the money has to come from somewhere, and often that plays a big role. I mean, just for a bit of background, you mentioned kind of our assistive technology. We have two products. We've got Captioned, and we've also got Talk Type. So Captioned is a bit of software that helps people to better comprehend and retain information. So it captions any dialogue, be that in the real world or online, and helps them to use those captions to make notes and retain that information for later, something that lots of people struggle with for lots of different reasons in sort of the modern workplace, where information comes at us from lots of different angles and lots of different formats. So translating it all into captions and then allowing you to retain it and take notes alongside that is really useful. And Talk Type is our other product, and that's a piece of dictation software. So again, something lots of people find very difficult is getting thoughts down into text. I'm certainly one of them, and Talk Type allows people to use their voice, which sometimes is more natural and flowing for them to get those thoughts down into text by dictating in a really natural and efficient way. And both of those pieces of software, there is a whole range of reasons, both related to a neurodivergent profile and not, that you might find them useful. And we find this time and time again, where one person might get access to a piece of software through something like Access to Work. So they might get access to Captions, let's say, and they'll be using it to take some notes or minutes during a meeting. And then one of their colleagues will say, oh, what's that? And then they'll want to use it. And we find that often within an organization, we grow like that because one person uses it, maybe related to a disability or a neurodifference. And then within their department, within their organization, it can grow like that. The better way of doing it is just to have it available to everybody who wants it right out off the bat. So you don't have to go through a scheme or a process in order to get access. You just have to, it's just there by default, and you can use it, out of the box straight away. So, yeah.
It's actually something I was even thinking of today, because I have my computer is on its way out and my keypad isn't fully working. So like there's certain letters that aren't working, and I was even thinking about Talk Type today. I was like, my life would just be so much easier if I could just dictate everything to it. But it is something that these tools are just useful for all of us all the time anyway. And going back to like the meetings and taking notes, the amount of cognitive effort on all of us, back-to-back meetings, long days. I think you refer to them, Jackie, as the executive functions. Sorry. So the executive functions, working memory, that some of those, even though people have different ways of thinking, neurotypical, neurodivergent, there's similar challenges that we all face.
Mm-hmm.
And I think maybe those tools can just help everybody.
I totally believe that if you can have a suite of tools like you described that people can access when they need them. What about, I've got a member of my team who's suffering a bit with repetitive strain injury from a lot of typing. He can use a speech to text software. What if there's some other things that I've got to do? So it might be that some people get very cold or immobile hands, or they've got arthritis that's difficult for them to use their hands, so mobility or skeletal issue. Perhaps they don't want to sit at their desk and do it. I mean, we can have standing desks, but technology allows us to be able to speak into computers in a different room, in a different space and time, which also might be more conducive to our free flow of thoughts. Sitting in a computer is in a desk is quite inhibiting for some people. I watched a YouTube video from a project manager who said, if you want great teams, don't get addicted to the chipboard. Don't get addicted to sitting at the desk. Let's all, let's move around. And these days we work virtually more as well. And I think, you buy a piece of assistive technology, or you agree a reasonable adjustment for a specific purpose. But what you find is it helps a lot of other people. So it's the dropped curb theory. You've dropped the curb for the wheelchair user, but the parent with the pushchair benefits, the person with the broken leg benefits. There's other people who benefit from your original idea. So inclusion includes everybody, and those reasons why they might need it might not even be known yet. But if you have them there, and you can, and I'm sure Rich does a fantastic deal if he rolls it out to a whole business, then people can come and take it as they need it, rather than having to sort of scurry around and ask people for permission to buy it, etc., and wait for it to be installed and IT to agree to support it, and all those other things that mean that it's not instantly available. Let's just make stuff available. Let's just make it really easy. Let's take the stigma away. And as you say, let's just unlock people's potential and let them be the best they can be. I mean, we think you should be able to go for the promotion just because you're dyslexic. Don't hold yourself back. Give yourself the opportunities, and hopefully workplaces will support you in that. Certainly, it's going up the agenda in terms of how seriously it's taken.
But I wonder, like there have been some things that you've mentioned there, both of you, and that it's better for staff retention, for productivity. You had a bit more data around that that you found, Jackie, that you're 3 times more likely to keep people if you provide accommodations for them. Mm-hmm. One question that I keep coming back to is, like, why is there an issue with companies rolling this out for everyone? Why is there an issue with accessibility and inclusion agendas? And where I kind of see the gap is that, are we really able to connect, or are these businesses seeing the actual business outcome?
The bottom line.
The bottom line. So unless there's, with some of these software tools, you might have anecdotes. Oh, I'm able to do my work better, or I'm able to do this better. But is there like a data deficit in assistive technologies, in supporting people with disabilities in the workplace, that isn't hitting the business impact? Because if you really, there's so many corporates there that are spending a lot of money on productivity tools. It's everyone in the organization gets access to this productivity tool to boost productivity. And if we call them productivity tools, maybe you get buy-in quicker than you get disability inclusion or accessibility tools.
Totally.
Totally. Oh, sorry, Jackie.
Go on, you go ahead. Yeah.
I mean, I was just going to say that I think there does need to be a reframing around, neuroinclusion as a topic. I think that moving it away from it being the nice thing to do, and it wouldn't it be nice if, and realizing actually, if me as a manager need to go and sell upstairs the idea of taking on this piece of assistive technology, or putting in place this program, or driving this initiative, I need to speak the language of the board. I need to understand what are the driving forces behind the business. What are the things that the people I'm talking to care about, and then doing basically a sales pitch, and understanding that the good thing in this is neuroinclusion is the most sellable thing. It's you can flex the benefits of neuroinclusion to meet any KPI that your organization has.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, but then making sure that you're basically speaking the right language, and you're going upstairs and saying, wouldn't it be nice if we rolled out this this change that might improve psychological safety within our organization? Wouldn't that be nice? Because everyone feels like psychologically safe. Well, what does that mean? Well, there are endless studies out there to show that in organizations where there's improved psychological safety, productivity is improved. Google did a really good study, I think it was quite a while ago, maybe over a decade ago now, where it showed I think it was like 160 teams, and they looked across these teams at productivity and what were the different factors that meant that some teams were more successful than others. And one of the core, if not the core factor, was psychological safety. So, you can take studies, there's so many studies out there, and you can take those studies, you can apply them to neuroinclusion, and then you can build your proposal for the people upstairs.
100% agree. There's a bunch of studies from the big five that have made that point. We've done two pieces of research. One on that model that I was sharing in my talk, which is basically a flipped model. So the medical model is, everyone has the assessment first, which is the most expensive, and then people move on, and we flip it to giving everybody access at the entry point to a tool like the Genius Finder that lets everybody understand their strengths and areas of challenge, and then you use that to triage the right people for the right level of support. And an occupational health business ran a study like for like on the two models, and said that to run the triage approach using the tool was 60% less expensive, and covered 13% more people with one-to-one support. And as you're right, you can look at any of those other studies. We've looked at retention and recruitment studies that give how much it costs you to recruit a new person. Well, if not giving people adjustments means they're 3 times more likely to leave your business, which the neurodiversity in business research showed, then you can start to put some numbers against that, because you'll know your retention rate in your business. So you can apply that. So the average turnover is 25%. Yours might be lower or higher than that. So you can work out what that 71% difference is between what your turnover is and what the turnover is if you apply tailored adjustments. And then you can apply an average cost that your business has of recruiting and training a new member of staff, and you apply that to that turnover rate. And you apply it to the Genius Finder, or we apply it to your technology, Rich, and we will find that we have a positive ROI that's in the thousands of % of being positive, because it's very, very expensive to recruit people before we even take into account the amount of time and lost productivity that we have when a person leaves a business. So I absolutely think that whatever way you choose to go at this, there is plenty of data to make the business case. It's whether the businesses feel that they want to look at it in amongst everything else. And there is a legal compulsion that they have to do, but we'd rather they just did it, because, as you said before, why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you want everyone to be able to work at their best? It would just be brilliant, wouldn't it? We all lose out when the potential of our colleagues is not able to be fulfilled, all of us.
I will say, sorry, I am back, but my camera is, I'm running into camera issues, so I am here, and we'll ask questions, but that was a great answer. I missed a little bit of that, Jackie. I will have to watch that back. I don't know if you have anything to add there, Rich?
No, I think I completely agree. The potential upside is just so much essentially greater than any what can be relatively menial costs in comparison when you're sort of talking about attrition rates and recruitment, and even down to the very practicalities when we sort of we do ROI for our software, and you'll say I don't know, captioning, for example, within a meeting, we know that captions improve retention by 32% on average. So if you can calculate the cost of a meeting, and you can say how many people in your organization are in meetings, and having captions is going to increase the value or the retention of the information in that meeting, or productivity of it by 32%. Well, that's enormous. It's yeah, and then on top of that, you're going to make people feel more included and basically more fulfilled within their roles. I mean, it just seems like a no-brainer to me.
Absolutely, I love that. Anything we can put more data points around, I'm all for, and connecting it to the business impact. And sometimes it's not everybody working in accessibility and inclusion likes to lead with that, because for some this is just what you need to do. But I genuinely feel like unless you are speaking business language, then you have a tougher kind of road to get down. And so let's question around one of the hottest topics, I suppose, at the moment. AI, and are you using, and there's AI in some of your products, how's AI helping to shape creating a more inclusive workplace, and even in making products and assistive technology better? Go to you first, Rich.
Yes, I think the short answer is yes. I think the sort of potential is enormous. We're taking a relatively cautious approach to AI for a number of reasons. I think we're sort of mirroring lots of our clients, and sort of wanting to make sure we deliver the value that AI can deliver, and trying to make sure that we can mitigate for essentially the risks. I think, though, from the power of what you can now do with technology due to generative AI is pretty amazing, and it's going to have a really meaningful impact on our lives. I use it all the time, both within our products and outside of our products. It helps me to navigate around tasks that I have to do, but have always been very laborious and difficult for me. Long form writing, things like that. I can
business plans.
Yeah, 100%. All those sorts of things I find it incredibly useful for. It allows me to be more productive, more efficient with my time, and ultimately spend then more of my time on the things that are I'm really good at. I should be spending my time, rather than a disproportionate amount of my time, on the things that I'm not particularly good at, and therefore take me longer to do. I think there are risks with it. There's sort of security concerns from information security and data handling perspective. There's especially with generative kind of AI, there is always the risk of kind of hallucinations, which are kind of getting better but are still present. So that's the premise that AI can create falsehoods from the data set you give it. So for example, if summarizing some information, it might make up a few sentences on things that didn't actually happen, which is a sort of integral problem to the sort of current state of generative AI. And then I think one of the other things which I'm very aware of, and is kind of is around kind of losing the voice of the individual, like losing the thing that makes me me. If everything I write is sort of wrangled and repieced together by sort of AI, is it me that's talking anymore, or is it somebody else, and or something else? And making sure that I'm using it for efficiency and productivity and as an aid, but by doing that, allowing myself to be doing the things that I think I'm inherently valuable, and are inherently valuable to the organization, doing more of them, whether that's from a leadership perspective, innovation, those sorts of things.
And Jackie, big pardon, Jackie, is this something that you've brought it into your work processes?
I think we're equally cautious. I think there's a slight crossover between machine learning and AI. So machine learning often gets misnamed as AI. Large volumes of data being crunched and looked at averages don't work well with a neurodivergent mind. So we're on the edges of the bell curve of normality. If you look at the curve distribution, and you look at the minds that are at the edges of that, that's where us neurodivergent people sit. And actually our brains are great at coming up with new and different ideas, and crunching everything to a norm using large volumes of data sets and machine learning takes away some of that edge. So there's lots of studies that say for things like recruitment, it's been a bit of a disaster. But there are obviously some processes that it works for. Inside our tool, we did test using creating certain strategies using AI to generate different environment settings. So the same strategy, but experienced in a different workplace environment. And it wasn't great, the output, to be honest with you. The AI didn't really understand the nuance of the different environment that we were in, and some of the stuff just didn't really make very much sense. So I think it's interesting. I welcome anything that supports people being able to do things more easily when they struggle with them. But in terms of how it will ape or take over the human mind, I think, the neurodivergent mind is pretty special because it acts differently to the neurotypical majority. So I don't think AI can replicate that quite yet, thankfully.
And we don't use the term superpower.
We don't use the term superpower because it negatively impacts on, the real genuine challenges that people have. And I think it also just puts a lot of pressure on people. They're not your neurodivergent fairy godmother that's going to turn up and do all your Excel spreadsheets really nicely for you and hand them back. We try and avoid the Rain Man trope of people who are brilliant at something and devoid in other areas. It's too cliched. We are individual as our fingerprints, and we can do things well, and we can struggle in other areas. But a superpower is, in our world that we inhabit, a step too far.
Great points there. And so I just want to say to all the attendees, first of all, thanks so much for so many people being here on such a long afternoon now, and everybody's probably dying for dinner or lunch if you're in the USA. I've shared some information there on getting more information on CareScribe, on the products of Captioned and TalkType, and there's a digital information pack. And there's also the links for Genius Within. So we can start to wrap it up. And if anybody any attendees have questions for our panelists there, maybe on how to get in touch, or maybe bring in some of their products into your organization, or just even any additional data or stats that you want to know about neuro inclusion, neurodiversity, will the links be shared afterwards in addition to the videos? They will. Everything, all the resources that people have mentioned today, along with summaries of all of the great information that people have from North America, would be more inclusive of Canadians. Okay, thank you. I always mix that one up. But yeah, everything will be shared with summaries. And I actually, in all the last webinars, I've been doing the summaries by hand. So I haven't yet used AI for that. I'm still equally cautious on using some of those things. Also, I just kind of haven't been using them. But just to wrap up then, I suppose, is it me? I think there's someone microphone. Just to wrap up then, some tips maybe for what do employers need to think about to create a more inclusive environment for neurodiverse employees? Rich, a couple of tips from you, and then we'll go to Jackie.
Yeah, I think what do employees need to think about to create more neurodiverse environments? I mean, I think I'd say think about it holistically. Essentially, I think right from the very start, from your hiring process, your onboarding process, your culture, so sort of your emotional environment, and then your physical and your digital environments. And I think if have that kind of holistic view of it, start at the beginning and work through all of the environments that people are in. I think that would be my approach. And then again, just when trying to get buy-in of the wider organization, I think about what the drivers and the drivers are for the people you're talking to, and then use data to pitch it to those wants of the organization.
Mm-hmm. We have AI for alternative text is not a great idea. I'd say about AI from a digital accessibility perspective. One thing, and that's another thing we'll be touching on tomorrow, with the digital accessibility. And one thing AI can't do is really that semantic meaning behind things. It can describe things, but it doesn't. I kind of say about language, we have the words that you have to understand, but you also have to understand between the words, between the sentences, and for that, it's not, it's not there yet. That's where you need the human in the loop, the human to add to those things as well. But I'll give that question to you as well, Jackie. What should companies think about, even now, even in a low cost way, or just a mindset shift to create more inclusive environments?
So I would say you need to have some good people at the top, and they need to share. So that you need to kind of get this psychological safety going, which you get when people who are senior in the organisation have a voice in this space. So, having fireside talks with a senior manager who discloses their own neurotype or an experience that they have, that starts to send messages through the organisation that it's okay to have the conversations. So having senior people really walking the talk is really important to set the scene. I think then I would move to flexibility. So there is no one size fits all, and actually being able to create an environment that's inclusive, that leaves out nobody, means that you have to deploy some level of flexibility, because one way of doing things will not work for everybody, and different minds do require different ways. So if you are going to determine that your internal communications are sent in a particular way, maybe think about doing a video to go alongside your weekly newsletter. And you start doing these small little things that don't cost your business a lot of money, but start to indicate and show that your business is serious from the ground up about what they are doing and their intent. And when you get some intent going, then I think you can start to build those business cases. And I would agree entirely with what Rich has said about building a business case with your data points, an ROI on a bottom line benefit. And there's plenty of research pieces. I've sent over a list of all the research I mentioned earlier today, not just from our organisation, but from other organisations as well. And there's plenty in there that you can pull from. So get your senior business to start talking about it, start doing things. Don't wait for permission, ask for forgiveness. Just make videos when you send texts out, and start moving the needle, because once you start doing it and you start a few people doing it and you have a volume of voices, you'll be surprised that how many people will suddenly come to you and talk to you and start disclosing. You talked about an ERG earlier today, didn't you? And they are amazing at moving the needle. It's hard work though.
Well, you said then, Jackie, sorry, about setting the example of if you're willing to talk about the challenges you have as a people leader of any level, it really does set the tone for that kind of driving that psychological safety within an organization. Expecting somebody who's maybe new in an organization to come to you and divulge important information about them personally, when you've not been able to demonstrate that you're willing to do it, can be it's a big ask. So there's a really good book called Radical Candor by Kim Scott, and she talks about, she's got this kind of, I don't know if she talks about it in the book or it might be on a separate talk anyway, but she has like her almost her manual of how to work with her. And it's such a great idea to say, look, this is the way I work and what I struggle with and what I don't. And she says, anyone I work with, I sort of share this with them, and set the example.
We like Radical Candor here as well. We created a a piece on our tool that allows you to do. I work at my best when I'm like, and it almost gives you that option of an open thing, like to work with me at my best. This is how to in a slightly less radical candor way, but the theory is the same. This is how I like to work, and you'll get the best out of me if you can do this. It's a great approach.
Yeah, and it's just about understanding people, really, isn't it? To know that if you have an important question that you need to ask a manager, for me, I know that do not ask me at 3 o'clock on a Tuesday. That's my worst time of the week for some reason. That's but get me on a Thursday morning, and so if we know the best ways to work with people, then we can remove those barriers, we can improve processes, and we can just kind of communicate and align much better together. But if nobody else has any more questions, then we are at 10 to 6 after almost 4 full hours of can I just say amazing sign language interpretation by our two interpreters, Teresa and Easy there as well. It has been fantastic. Huge turnout and participation from everybody. A lot of people have stayed the whole afternoon or morning. So look, I think this has been a really valuable afternoon, learning from Jackie, from Rich, all of the other participants. A lot of the participants run training, run workshops. They have solutions, tech solutions that we have hosted on leadersforaccessibility.com. I hope we can speak to Jackie afterwards and get Genius Finder Pro on that as well. But you can find CareScribe there, captioned, and hopefully soon we'll get TalkType up. So at Leaders for Accessibility, register for the newsletter. Maybe I'll do a video one as well. I'll let you know about more events. Another one starting tomorrow, but also it's a place to come to not just find a network of people and knowledge. It's really a place to find solutions as well, so that I'm going to use Jackie's quote, is we're not asking people to change, we're putting in the supports there before people fall, before people leave. And I think that's really what it's all about. So my huge appreciation to everyone who's taken part, everyone who's joined today, and our sign language interpreters as well. So thank you all for joining us.